very good morning to you as we continue our rolling coverage here on the SABC News channel. We continue to bring you all the latest as the results come in.
National Results Operations Center. My name is Tshidi, Madia. I'm from Eyewitness News. So we've been here giving you rolling coverage. It's Friday, in essence, day 3 of elections, if you may. We're going to give you a quick update about what's been happening. I think if you look at the board, there's a leaderboard behind me, and every now and again you'll hear a bell ring, which signals an update to that particular board. But I must tell you, about an hour and a half to 2 of this morning, we did not have any results showing on that particular board. What we understood at the time is that there was a glitch of sorts. What it was, we still don't know. We're told by the IC that technical was dealing with it. When we asked what is the glitch, they themselves say they don't know, that they're waiting to find out what caused the glitch. So we have the screens back up now. We're told that nothing was impacted or affected by those particular glitches, that counting continues. Yes, they're at about, 54% of the districts counted at the moment. Interesting stats. We've been talking about these over the past few days, emerging interesting trends. I must quickly say to you, today being Friday, my expectation is we'll see a lot of activity here, not just journalists, not just pundits, and not just party representatives, but I think we'll see party leaders. I've seen members of the Presidential Protection Unit, and I asked, is it number 1 or number 2? And from my understanding, Deputy President Paul Mashatile is likely to be taking a turn around here. In the past, we've often seen presidents of organizations. I imagine internal conversations in the ANC are quite difficult with its current performance, and I'm not surprised at the idea that the ANC's number 1, President Cyril Ramaphosa, might not want to come and face the questions that he'll find when he comes to the IEC. We're likely to see John Steenhuisen. The DA has announced that he will be here. I understand that Herman Mashaba, Action SA, hasn't performed as well as they had hoped it would. He's expected to also come in. So some parties will concede, I suspect others won't. We've been looking at what happens with independents, and I don't think the story of the independents has a happy ending in this election cycle. At least we've been looking at the newcomers, lots of newcomers, how they've been performing. Again, not as well as many would have expected them to do, of course, except for one, the MK party leading that pact, being the disruptor of the 2024 elections period. And of course, people are looking at established parties which are bleeding quite profusely. But again, I'm not even going to use the phrase it's too soon, too early. I think the trends are showing themselves for what they are. The idea of a multi-party charter, the Moonshot Pact, I don't see it. Again, Action SA, one of the partners, hasn't done well. The IFP hasn't done well. The DA doesn't look like it's going to grow at the rate that it wanted to. So these elections have been interesting. I will be also speaking to a number of guests from the floor here, politicians, experts, to make sense of what do these elections mean. Earlier we had one of the commissioners, Mawetu Mosri, explaining the issue of the glitches. And what I said to him, but what about the conspiracy? These elections have been difficult, but have also been flooded with conspiracy theories where people will say things like, yeah, the screens went out, counting was disrupted in order to try and maybe, I don't know, rig the votes. And he said, counting has continued. The system is working. There's just an issue with the leaderboard. And we'll have clarity, hopefully, about what went wrong a little bit later on. I want to bring on now Director of IMSA, that the Terry is somebody that I think all of us call you, all of us talk to you, all of us seek your understanding, because us being here at the IC, this was your journey for the longest time. Now you're on the other side and you're able to look at it from an objective point of view, and you're also able to see the gaps slightly differently from being outside. Let's first get your sense of where we are. In the past, most of us journalists on Friday morning didn't even bother pitching because the story would have told itself. We'd know exactly what the outcome is. We are here today. I'm struggling to see, it's getting great eyes to see how many of the valid votes have been counted, but we are here, and this is not where, I think over 5 million last night, we are not where we would have expected or have been at this time in the past.
Of course, you're correct that ordinarily by this time the picture would have been different in terms of the percentage of people who would have been captured or the stations that would have been captured. But I think this is attributable largely to the fact that you had the new system that is being utilized this year. You had 3 ballot papers, and the majority of stations, largely because of some of the glitches that the Electoral Commission experienced, voted until very early hours of the day. So the capturing of the results will therefore be delayed as a result of this.
Even that, the knock-on effect beyond just the capturing of results, Simon Mabolo, chairperson of the IEC, keeps saying, and I keep noting it, he says, remember, we have 7 days to declare the elections. And for me, that was trying to conscientize us, to make us understand that actually anything is possible, because they also need to deal with issues of objections before we even get to that point. How much further delays do you anticipate? How difficult do you see navigating the disputes will be, considering all the frustrations from election day itself?
Well, in terms of the legislation, objections, what we refer to as Section 55 objections, which are objections material to the outcome of the results of the elections, have got to be dealt with within 48 hours. That's the period that the Election Commission cannot announce the results within. So they've got to deal with those Section 55 objections within those 48 hours, and then the results can then be announced. So ordinarily, even though the Constitution stipulates that this must be within 7 days, the Commission always tries to announce the results on the 3rd day, on a Saturday. I think even though we're halfway now, I still think that it is still possible for the results to be announced tomorrow, the final results. But the provisional results, maybe midnight tonight, we will be having a clearer idea of what actually happening in relation to that.
I can't wait till we start seeing more clarity. I'm tired of hearing people say it's still early days, it's still early days. There was a glitch earlier here specifically where the board went blank for at least, I think Mosri said it was about an hour and a half, but it felt much longer to me. The impact of that kind of incident happening, when people are watching, when there's so much scrutiny, and when the credibility and the integrity of these elections are up in the air and people are questioning whether the IC is still fit for purpose or whether we have to have deeper conversations about how the IC does its work. What would that be in your eyes?
Well, there's an atmosphere of nervousness and anxiety about these elections. There have been all sorts of rumors about the elections being rigged and all that. And the Commission has got to be conscious of these issues and make sure that nothing untoward happens, and they cannot afford to have those kind of mistakes happening at a time when the society is so anxious about this result and all the suspicions about what can happen as a result.
Before I let you go back, Terry, I've been saying, and I'll go back, and I'm sure people have heard me say this over and over again, we've never had such a litigious process around the elections. That's in the lead up to these. And for me, that's made me feel quite anxious about what happens post-elections. In the past, we've often had threats, are we going to go to court? But it's never really materialized, again, because the integrity of the IEC has always been found to be exactly what it is. The credibility is actually unquestionable. This year, a part of me feels like, geez, we're going to wake up after the elections and somebody would have found papers. What is your sense?
I think it is unlikely, and then the reason why I believe it is unlikely, I think all the political leaders thus far, even though they've got some complaints, there is a certain level of maturity where almost all the political leaders are prepared to go along with the outcome of the results of the elections. The fact that there have been glitches, there have been some of those difficult areas and challenges, I don't think would really amount to having to go to court and try to challenge the outcome of the results of the elections.
Do we as a nation need to have a greater conversation about how the IEC does its job and the way forward?
I think the IEC has got a lot of reflection to do, but we as a society as well have got a responsibility to try to see what kind of interventions are required in order to make sure that the IEC does not lose its credibility. The credibility of the elections is dependent on the body that runs the elections, and it's important that they run the elections in such a manner that their decisions are not being questioned.
All right, thank you so much. That's IMSA's Tshidi speaking about these elections, the glitches, the path towards where we are and beyond, and speaking about the importance of the credibility of the IEC should be beyond reproach. Its credibility should never be questioned. Its integrity in being able to deliver the elections. I mean, the IEC is globally renowned, and that's a risk from some of the frustrations that have been seen. Some are suggesting we could actually be facing from the way these particular elections have been handled. Again, we are coming to you from the floor here at the IEC's National Results Operations Center. I am speaking to experts. I'm also speaking to political parties themselves who are watching in real time what South Africans want. Joining me at the moment is Wayne Tring from the ACDP. Wayne, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Your first take at the results. I mean, some say these are stunning. We're still making sense of what it means. Your thoughts?
Well, I think from the ACDP's perspective, I think it's sad, firstly, that we've actually had the glitch that has happened now with the IEC and been offline for some 2 hours. Understanding that you had challenges with regards to the voter management devices, which caused inordinately long queues, people turning away and going back home because they weren't able to exercise their democratic right because of these long queues. Some people being turned away, being told that in terms of those VMDs, they were not registered to vote when indeed they were, and then people being given the wrong number of ballot papers. So the VMDs created, firstly, problems in terms of ordinary South Africans exercising their democratic vote. Now, secondly, you have this glitch. The system's been down for some 2 hours because of connectivity issues and data issues, according to Mr. Mosery. It's just unacceptable. It's, the IEC has been given huge amounts of budget. It's certainly close on to 2 billion rand for the operation of running the business of the IEC. And in order to ensure that you have credible, free and fair elections, you've got to do everything possible to ensure that you don't have these kinds of glitches. So I think, and then you've got ballot boxes also that are going missing off the back of vehicles transporting them to the result centers. So this doesn't bode well. It's just not good publicity for the IEC, and then it begins to raise suspicions in the minds of the ordinary voter out there and South African out there. Are these elections free and fair? So as the ACDP, we are kind of watching. We are also, looking at procuring the services of some IT specialists to kind of go through the system with the fine comb, and from our perspective to ensure that there are no votes lost to the ACDP that should be coming our way.
Does that suggest that you're suspicious about what happened, including the leaderboard going blank for several hours? Are you suspicious of what could have happened in that moment? Is that what you're suggesting, Wayne?
What I'm saying is that it does raise suspicions. However, the IEC have indicated that there are hard copies, and they actually do have those hard copies, that there is a paper trail. So this is what we are going to now do. We're going to be interrogating that particular paper trail, speaking also to our party agents on the ground, and making sure that where we actually do pick up anomalies, making sure that there are no votes that are lost to the ACDP. So, but these are things that actually shouldn't happen. We should be able to trust the system implicitly, but where you have glitches like these, it actually causes suspicions to be aroused. But we are hopeful that the suspicions that we do have will not be to the extent that we have to call the IEC out. but it's a process that we are going through ourselves, and we will follow it through right to the end. But the ACDP is also thankful to those who have actually come out and voted, and we want to just express our thanks to the millions of South Africans who have gone out, exercised their democratic right. The ACDP is a political party that has been around from 1994, 30 years in governance, and we know that we're going to be around, Lord willing, for the next 30 years. We are not going anywhere.
That's a very interesting one that you speak about the ACDP itself. I was looking at the leaderboard earlier. Not an impressive showing from what I can see at the moment. Your take on how your party has performed and why, it might be early stages, everyone keeps saying, but your performance is indicating something that I think should concern your party.
Well, look, certainly I think almost all political parties would indicate that they're not happy with the results, that they would like to see the results being far higher than where they are. We've been kind of trailing at around 0.65%. 2019, we obtained just over 0.8%. So we're not far off the mark. We still have some of our core support bases, particularly some of the bigger municipalities and metros, some of those results that still need to come in. Traditionally, we've received some 25 to 30% of our vote in a province coming from the metros and from some of the bigger municipalities. So those haven't come in as yet. So the curtain hasn't been drawn. The show is not over. And we are waiting for those results to come in, and then we will make a pronouncement on whether we are happy or not.
My parting shot to you really, is it not time to maybe also go back to the drawing board as the ACDP? Because what you're saying is you pretty much draw the same samples from the pot. You come up pretty much exactly where you've always been. One would imagine that in the pursuit of power, when you contest elections, you want to grow, not just stay stagnant. And what you're suggesting to me is that you've actually not really moved from one particular position. So there's a question about, should you not be going to the drawing board and trying to refine your offering to the electorate?
I think any political party worth its salt has to go back to the drawing board. I think every political party has to look at an internal analysis as well as an external analysis, and then you get in the experts who come and interrogate and offer some positive criticism to the party. So certainly I think that the ACDP will be doing that. We obviously will go to the drawing board, but I think that when it comes to the results, the voters actually are the ones who actually make the choice and the determination. At the end of the day, we do our best. We appeal to the voter base from our policy position, our manifesto position, and then we have to trust the voters to actually make the determination. So, but going back to the drawing board, I think every political party worth its salt has to do that post-elections.
Just before I let you go, is Reverend Kenneth mentioned going back to Parliament? However few seats you managed to score, does he return to Parliament, or is this part of the path of him stepping down?
The Reverend has indicated that in his last interview that his position is determined by the democratic structures within the ACDP. So the democratic structures of the party will determine whether he returns or not. He is one who submits to the structures of the party. He is not one who is a dictator, and he's made that very clear, that if the party still wants him, he is there to serve.
All right, thank you so much. That's Wintering from the ACDP, speaking about what they need to also think about from the election results that we're seeing. Political parties have to make sense with what some have described as absolutely stunning election results. South Africans came out in their numbers. The turnout is not exactly what the IEC had hoped it would be. They thought it would be better. 2019, 66%, not quite there, but still, those who turned up and withstood the long waits, the long queues, standing in their snaking queues, have made their views known. I'm joined now by IFP's Naren Singh, another MP from the IFP, who joins me now. Let's chat a little bit about the IFP standing in these elections. Naren, just before you came on, Wayne spoke about how every party pretty much has to go back to the drawing board and reflect on how it's performed in these elections. Is this the case for the IFP? Do you also need to go figure out what went wrong? Because the IFP was said to be in a resurgence. The expectation was you do remarkably better than what you've done.
Yeah, I think, the preparation for the next election starts on tomorrow. As soon as results are announced for this one, you start elections. I mean, that's how it's always been. And we are not getting the kind of results that we expected, but it's still a bit early days. We still got halfway to go. And when I looked at the stats that we have, there are a number of areas which are our relative strongholds that have not been counted yet. As you would know, and your viewers would know, rural areas take a bit longer before they come on stream because of the difficulties, technological difficulties that they have. But we are still hopeful that we will do better in terms of numbers of members of parliament in the National Assembly and in the provincial legislature. And it's looking that way at this moment in time.
The big conversation, you say you start planning towards elections, and I've heard this all the time, but the bigger conversation is what must happen in terms of governing the country, what is in the best interest of the country. In your case, some are even saying the IFP must be having conversations about what is best for KZN at this point in time. Your thoughts around the fact that I think these election results affirm what many believe, that South Africa is for power sharing. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we've been saying it all along that power sharing is the way to go. And now it's dawned upon us that it has to happen. And I just hope, and we just hope as the IFP, that political parties that have the same vision, mission, values, have same needs. Because if you look at our manifestos, by and large, our manifestos say the same thing. It's just how you approach the issues, how you implement the issues. But there could be some stark differences in certain policy positions, for example, land issues or nationalizing the Reserve Bank and things like that. There could be those stark differences, but I think political parties must try and find each other. What's common in their manifesto that we can deliver to the people? And what's important now, people have spoken this way because they would have given a party the majority, but they didn't, because they want parties to work together. They want accountability. And this is something that we need to do within the executives of the different legislatures or national government.
The issues about stark differences around issues of land and the likes and nationalization almost sounds like you are speaking about an MK, maybe IFP coalition in a province like KZN. That's something that I've been hearing for some time, that actually the IFP might be open to finding itself in government with the MK party, that they can find a program of government to serve that particular province. How open are you to that idea and to those talks, and have they started even?
No, we haven't had any discussions with MK or any other parties. The only discussions that have taken place, and for some time now, is within the parties that make up the multi-party charter.
Which has pretty much collapsed.
I think, yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't do better as a collective. But I think our first port of call would be to talk amongst ourselves and decide from there what we'd like to do. Move forward as a charter, as a bloc, or move forward with individual parties, doing whatever they want to do. But that's something I think by this afternoon or later this evening, these are talks that will have to start taking place.
Just before I let you go, the ANC, some in the ANC talk about how ideally it's easier if they work with an IFP. How open is the IFP to such an idea? Yes, the MPC came as an opponent really to the idea of an ANC or that particular bloc, but I don't see the MPC holding water. You must look out after your own interests. The ANC might say to you, actually, let's join hands here and there and here. How open is the IFP to that idea?
Well, I think our NEC will decide that, and then we'll take it to our National Council. But, we look at every option. We would like to contribute to being part of government because we believe that we have a role to play. Even though we have been opposition in national government for many years, I think we were always constructive opposition, and the ruling party took us seriously whenever we said something. So, we would like to be part of a government that wants to grow the country, grow the economy, and unemployment and load shedding and things like that must be something of the past. But you've got to have policies on the table, and there must be checks and balances. For us, accountability, checks and balances, not only at an executive level but at a legislature level are important. We've always said that it's unfortunate that the ANC in national government, and because they're forced to, has had only one chair of committees from an opposition party, and that's our Mkhuleko Hlengwa. But all the other committees are chaired by the ANC, and we've been talking to them for years now to say, let's share the portfolio so that there's more checks and balances. Like in SCOPA, I think people in the country see a stark difference in the way SCOPA operates from any other any other committee in Parliament. So these are things I think that we'll have to talk about, and whoever the coalition partners are, we'll have to talk broadly about, legislatures and the functions of the presiding officers, and then the executive. It's not only about the executives in those provincial parliaments or in provincial legislatures or National Assembly.
All right, thank you so much. That's Naren Singh from the IFP speaking about the different permutations, considerations. I've always said this country's constitution, believe it or not, is by design built for power sharing. And South Africa seems to have reached that chapter where we're going to have difficult conversations where the expectation is for political parties to be a little bit more mature in how they approach these talks. We're hopeful that we won't see what's been happening in some of Gauteng's metros where it feels like grabby politicians looking out for their own self-interest. It's a very difficult path, I think, that the country finds itself in, but that's the beauty of democracy, right? So we voted, we've called the shots, and this is what they're delivering. The picture's not complete as yet. I think just over 50 odd percent of the districts have been counted. I think over 7 million votes, valid votes, have been counted. That picture, I think, will certainly take shape much later today. And for that, EWN will be here for you. We'll bring you updates. Prime Media Plus is where you'll find us. EWN.co.za. We'll be bringing you updates, political leaders. I suspect there'll be a lot of media briefings and some concessions from some of these politicians today. But again, we will be here, I'll be here, and we'll give you those updates. Cheers.